Thank you, Lisi and Rick. We would like to extend an especially warm welcome to those who are here for the first time. We're so glad you are here. Our greeter is dropping our connection card into the chat box if you'd like to complete that and connect to our community. This caring, supportive community has a pastoral care committee who works closely with our minister to provide support, care, and a listening ear. Please fill out the pastoral care card being dropped in the chat box if you would like the care team and/or Reverend Laura to reach out to you. There's also a link on our website. Our online services are intergenerational, and we have a religious exploration program whose director, Rebecca Britt, is happy to hear from you. Her email is in the chat box now. There's a lot happening here at SVUUS, and the Happenings weekly newsletter is a concise, up-to-the-minute way to stay connected. Lori Quigley's email is now in the chat box if you'd like to reach out to her to receive Happenings. We are also active on Facebook and have an event calendar on our website. So here are a few announcements. Good news! Our Giving Tuesday campaign received another matching gift from Facebook, and our total raised for our Connected, Joyful, Safe Reopening Fund is now just over $6,000. So thank you again for our generous donors last fall, and we look forward to sharing with you our plans for upgrading technology, brightening the sanctuary, and ensuring a healthy environment as we plan for reopening once it's safe and sensible to do so. Breeze training. Yay! Following worship today, in this same Zoom room, we'll be hosting a training on how to use our new church database Breeze, as well as explaining how Breeze will integrate with our pledge drive this year. If you have not yet activated your Breeze account and/or you would like to know more about how pledges will work in the new system, please join us following our short break. We will now take a moment to share the warmth of community. We'll say hello to one another and then say our chalice lighting words. They will be in the chat box. If you have a candle or chalice, please light it as we say those words in a moment. You can unmute yourself at this time and say hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hi, everybody.
Good to be with you.
Hello. Hello.
Everyone.
It's Krista from the Avenue.
Nice to see everybody.
Hi, Heather.
See who else is here.
Hi, Sloan.
morning.
Everyone.
Hey, Jurgen.
Oh, look at the baby.
Hi, Ann. Kevin, Peter, everybody. Jenna. Janice.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Who is that, Janice? Miss Janice.
How you doing, Janice?
Good.
It's my favorite part.
Hey, your mom.
We've got a lot of people on today.
All right, does everyone have a candle, or whoever has a candle or a chalice, please grab it, and the chalice lighting words should be in the chat box now. All right, please say the words with me. We light this chalice for the warmth of love,
The light
and truth, and for the energy of action.
Good morning. I'm Jürgen Kobenka, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. My pronouns are his, him, and he. Come, come, whoever you are. You are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes. You are welcome here. No matter what you have experienced in the past, no matter what awaits you in the future, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, or some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. You are welcome here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Laura Young, and my pronouns are she and her. Let us come now into a time where we settle in a little deeper into this sacred space that is made sacred by our presence and the gathered community. Even though we are disparate in our homes, we are gathered together in body and mind and spirit and in memory of our beautiful sanctuary. This has been a rough week for democracy in Hong Kong, and I just want to lift up for a moment those protesters and advocates for democracy that have been jailed over the weekend and are facing a very uncertain future at this time. We stand in solidarity with all pro-democracy movements as in line with our values as Unitarian Universalists. We hold those dissidents and their families in our hearts today. I'd like to invite Bob Spicer to join me on screen now for our call to worship. This morning's call to worship is a pair of poems. The first written in 1079 by Su Tong Po, and I know I pronounced that incorrectly. I'm gonna try it again. It's Su Dong Po. Bob is, yes, good, I got it right this time. And he was a poet active in China in 1079, and he wrote a poem. And so I will read it once for you, and then Bob will read the response. This is entitled, On a Boat, Awake at Night. Faint wind rustles reeds and cattails. And I open the hatch, expecting rain. Moon floods the lake. Boatmen and water birds dream the same dream. A big fish splashes off like a frightened fox. It's late. Men and creatures forget each other while my shadow and I amuse ourselves alone. Dark tides creep over the flats. I pity the cold mudworms. The setting moon, caught in a willow, lights a dangling spider. Life passes swiftly, hedged by sorrow. How long before you've lost it? A scene like this. Cocks crow, bells ring, 100 birds scatter. Drums pound from the bow, shout answers shout.
The poem I will read is a response to Su Tong Po's poem that was written by an American poet, W.S. Merwin, about 12 years ago. It's called A Letter to Su Tong Po. Almost 1,000 years later, I'm asking the same questions you did, the ones you kept finding yourself returning to, as though nothing had changed, except the tone of their echo growing deeper, and what you knew of the coming of age before you had grown old. I do not know any more now than you did then about what you were asking as I sit at night above the hushed valley, thinking of you on your river, that one bright sheet of moonlight in the dream of the water birds. And I hear the silence of after your questions, the silence after your questions. How old are the questions tonight?
May it be so. May we enter this time of worship together, and may these words be a blessing that warms and sustains your heart. Let us sing together our gathering hymn.
Our gathering hymn is Lean on Me. I will sing it, and the lyrics will be in the chat box if you want to sing along. Everyone but myself will be muted. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have wings, you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
The story for our ages today is about a very chill kid. This is Michael the chill kid. Michael's a 6th grader, and everyone who knew him knew that he could be counted on to keep it cool. He never yelled at his sisters. He ignored when other kids got rowdy at school, and he was always, always cool and calm. Michael's secret was that whenever he felt something big, something not helpful, and sometimes just felt anything at all, he balled it up and stuffed it in an invisible backpack. His parents and teachers cared about his feelings a lot, but he didn't always want to talk about them. Some days he put nothing in the invisible backpack. Some days he put a lot. One morning, Michael woke with a start to the sound of police sirens. He ran out into his family's apartment to see what was happening. He just found Dad getting ready to leave, but no police. His heart was beating hard anyway. "It's just out on the street," Dad said. "Nothing to worry about." Michael went to the window and saw the police cars down on the street, talking to one of their neighbors. Nothing to worry about, he thought. It didn't make sense that he felt a big, heavy feeling, so Michael knew what to do. He balled that feeling up, and before it could get any bigger, he stuffed it in his invisible knapsack. His mom asked him to walk his sister to school because there was so much going on near their bus stop, and he was happy to do it, but his little sister was walking so slowly, cracking the ice on the sidewalk, that when he got to his school, he was late. "I had to walk my sisters," he told the Well, whoever was giving him a tardy slip, he didn't know because he wasn't late. He was so good at following the rules and nope, he wasn't gonna get upset about any of it. He took the feelings he had while he held the orange slip and he'd walked to class and put them in his backpack. Throughout the day, Michael remained chill. He was so busy going from class to class that he stuffed every feeling in the backpack, even the ones that he might have wanted to feel, like that when there was hot lunch with pizza and he saw a friend. His invisible backpack got heavier every hour, even when he didn't put anything in. His feelings had grown into a tangled electric disaster. He was afraid to put anything new in and he didn't dare take anything out. When Michael got to the after-school program, his backpack was the heaviest it had ever been. It pulled on his shoulders and made it hard to do anything at all. He lay his head down on a table, and out of the corner of his eye, he saw a teacher sit down. "How are you feeling?" they asked. "It's too much to tell you," he told them. "Why don't you tell me one thing?" they asked. Michael felt the weight of all the feelings in his backpack and decided that maybe it would be okay to let just one out. He told the teacher that he was sad he didn't get popcorn at snack a few minutes ago, and he was happy to ride the bus with his friends. Then that he was worried about his history homework, and he was frustrated that his sister was going slow, and he was embarrassed that he was late to school, and he was kind of still scared when he heard the police. He said all these things and he felt the backpack get lighter and lighter on his back. As he talked, he felt the feelings, but then they left. "Why do I feel so much better?" he asked the teacher. "These feelings came to help you," they said. "And now that you felt them, they're done their job and they won't weigh on you anymore." Michael decided to put the invisible backpack away just for a little bit and see what happened when he felt feelings right away. At the after-school club, he was mad when someone went on the computer for too long. He was happy when they got to play outside, and he was excited to see his sisters. He felt all right away. The feelings didn't go away completely. They floated above as they walked home from the after-school program. There if Michael needed them, but not there to weigh him down. In the end, it was a good day after all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. That is such a good reminder for all of us, and being able to talk with people about what's going on in our lives. All right, this community, our church, and its many ministries are only made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many of you pledge monthly to support our work for this, and we are grateful. Your gifts help ensure that we are able to live our values of love and justice in the outside world. Part of our ministry at South Valley includes sharing our Sunday worship offerings with a charitable organization that aligns with our principles and values. Your gift today will support the work of South Valley and the Crossroads Urban Center's Emergency Fund. This fund is helping those struggling to meet rent and utility payments during these difficult economic times. Crossroads is a nonprofit, multi-faith, community-based economic justice organization that was established in 1966. It is a grassroots organization that assists low-income Utahns, those with disabilities, and people of color to meet basic survival needs to address essential issues affecting their stability and quality of life. Please give generously. Beautiful. Thank you. Let's now say our offertory words together. Please say them with me. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share in the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
For all that we have received and all we have found the courage to give, may we be truly grateful. May these gifts be a blessing to South Valley and the Crossroads Urban COVID-19 Emergency Fund. At this time, let us enter into a time of sharing within our congregation our personal joys and sorrows that have entered or passed through. You're invited to use the chat box.
If this makes sense for you, let's breathe together. We're not alone. Today especially, let's sense each other's presence. Feel free to switch off your video temporarily if you like. If possible, set both feet directly on the floor. If you can, sit forward on your seat and let your spine find its balance vertically. Let your inhaled breath come down into your abdomen. Just follow it as it comes in, and then let it return. See without looking. Hear without listening. It's natural that thoughts arise. If possible, don't follow them. Just notice and return to breathing as you are. Emotions matter. Simply let them come. In the group I practice with, sometimes someone cries. We seem to sit alone, but really, we're together, caring, understanding, offering each other space to be ourselves. In this spirit, we can breathe together. Present for each other and all beings.
Hi, I'm Kristen May, and I've been a member of the South Valley community for about 9 years. Back then, my husband is actually my then husband. We're no longer married. He's actually the one who found South Valley. He was looking for a place to worship when he left the LDS church. My kids actually started attending here at the same time. But my exit from the LDS church was a little bit slower. Long after my belief in the LDS faith left, I stayed attending services there, mostly just because I valued the community and the friends I had made over the years. It was hard staying there though. Every week I felt it was more and more of a struggle. I silently was protesting the things that people were saying. I didn't feel comfortable speaking out in that environment, but it didn't feel right to me. And at the same time, I was attending some services at South Valley. I was feeling spiritually fed in a way here that I did not feel at the LDS church. Eventually, my desire to worship in a place without that internal struggle just ultimately led me to completely leaving the LDS church and coming to South Valley. I did feel welcome at South Valley from the start, but honestly, it did take some time for me to build up that same feeling of feeling connected to the community. It did happen. For me, the way that I connect easiest with people is not with small talk. I am pretty awkward at that. If you've ever tried to have a conversation with me, you may have noticed. But I do enjoy working with people, and that's generally how I connect the best. So for me, at first, I joined the hospitality committee. There is a play group, if you can believe it. My youngest, Anita, was little. And so I got to know some of you, met a lot of members of the community, and that was a great start. And then just over the years, I became involved in the religious exploration program. I've taught OWL, which I care a lot about its success. And of course, one of my favorite parts of SVU US is the partying. So I've been involved over the years in helping to make sure that we have that part. So I've met so many wonderful people, both young and older, over the years, and I do now feel like South Valley is my family. I just wanted to share, just for me, a couple moments where I felt that overwhelming connection for you all. One was a few years ago, I moved across the country and then moved right back a year later. It was a hard year, that year that I was away. But one of the perks of coming back to Utah was knowing that South Valley was here. And that first Sunday back, it was just so heartwarming and exciting, just seeing everyone. It just felt like I was coming home, coming back to family. It just was one of those moments. And I felt similarly just a little less than a year ago during that first Zoom meeting we had. I mean, it sounds silly, but I know I had just seen you all a few weeks ago, but then seeing everyone in their video, and I just saw everyone's faces, and it's you and your dogs. And it was exciting to know that we could still be a community and worship together. And it just kind of warmed my heart that we've been able to do this. And then kind of one last experience was during the auction when I was at the church. People were dropping off, picking up donation items, and I just kind of saw glimpses of people for a few minutes just coming through. But I don't know, seeing everyone in person again, it just had different feels to the virtual, and it just gave me a glimpse of what it's going to be like when it's safe to worship together again. I look forward to that. I mean, this is great seeing you all here, but I just know that we're just going to be just full of joy on that day. I really look forward to that. Of course, it's pledge drive time. I am committed to continuing to support South Valley this year, both with my time donations and with my financial donation. And I do that because I still feel the same spiritual feeding that's important to me during our Zoom services. And I want to support those who have kind of honed the craft of this Zoom experience. Also, like, you're my family. I want us to succeed as a family. I know that there's a lot of exciting stuff planned for this year, and I want to see us succeed. And that's my story. Thanks.
I was invited to share a little bit about my own personal experience and also to reflect on what's happening now. I'm coming as a Buddhist, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about that, just to kind of set the context. The historical Buddha lived 2,500 years ago. The religion that grew from his experience has come down to us in many strands, influencing distinct cultures and being influenced through them in return. My own strand is Zen, also many strands. I'll speak from my own personal experience. The Buddha was a person like us, not a god, not a supernatural being. As a person, he embodies our potential. Here we are, our society in crisis in the midst of a pandemic. The Buddha's teaching is unique, I think, in that it takes suffering head on. Suffering. For example, wanting permanence when our lives are fragile and our futures, as they must be, are uncertain. Behind this wanting is a kind of thirst for good things to continue, for solidified identity, for ultimate continuation. It's completely human and completely understandable to feel this way. But also, as the Buddha taught, the wish for permanence won't help us. Based on personal experience, I think he's right. Do we really want to go back to what we used to think was normal? I'd like to share a personal experience. 3 years ago, I nearly died. A hip replacement got infected, and the infection spread into my bloodstream and attacked my heart. I was given antibiotics, which nearly knocked out my kidneys, and then drastic surgery. But I started to recover slowly in the ICU. Alarms, emergencies, people running, shouts, the smell of toxic chemicals, bright light all the time, no privacy, people in tears. I could do little there but meditate, so that's what I did. We practice right where we are. One foundation of this practice is to set useless thoughts aside. Thoughts like, I don't deserve this, or this is hell, what am I doing here? I was raised not to impose on people. There, another useless thought. I was hesitant to ask for help. But the nurses and assistants would become distressed if I hung on stoically when they could make a difference. Distressed because for one reason or another, they needed to help. That shook me very deeply. As my practice settled in, I became fascinated by these informed, responsive people. People who helped, literally, to save my life. I'm very grateful for the chance my situation offered me to come to know them. I found myself in awe of my surroundings. Who are we really? The Buddha, human like us, points to our potential, the potential of each one of us without exception. We're good, down to the bottom. Fundamentally, this is not belief. It's something we can find based on direct personal experience, not somewhere else, but right here where we are. On these grounds, the Buddha made a list of questions that he urged his followers to set aside. For example, what happens after we die? Or is there a soul that can continue after death? It's natural. It's completely human to ask such questions. So it might be hard to step away from them, to set them carefully aside because they don't address our suffering. For example, as the Buddha said, if someone had just shot you with an arrow, would you ask what kind of wood the shaft was made of? Or what kind of bird the feathers came from? We suffer in this understanding when we step back from the immersive focus and engagement that can help us in our concrete human situations. Back from being present, from being fully present for each other and the world. In particular, this teaching stands in contrast to a huge, pervasive cultural inheritance, a tradition of exalted, strongly held dichotomies like matter versus spirit, spirit versus world, eternity versus time, self versus other, and humans versus the green earth. Breathe slowly for a moment and reflect. We aren't separate, not in any of these ways. We deeply interpenetrate, interdepend, and interweave. This intimate, direct connection, indeed, with all beings, offers an astonishing potential that our culture and our history have largely overlooked. And that potential starts by being present with each other. To illustrate, consider Standing Rock. It started with a small youth group. 6 years ago at the Cheyenne River Reservation, grief brought Jacelyn Charger, then 19 years old, back home from Portland where she'd fled earlier to pull herself together. A close friend had killed herself. No one saw it coming. And then another friend took her own life. I had to do something, Charger said. First, she helped begin a tiny group for other troubled teens to open a safe space, free of drugs and alcohol, free of bullying, free of abuse. In the background, over a century of genocide, uprooting, crushing poverty and habitat destruction, of systematic government assaults to wipe out her people's language, culture, history, personal connections, widespread drugs, bullying, child abuse, despair, and suicide. Charger and the friends who joined her represent the first generation since the genocide to grow up free to live as Indians, as Sioux. Seen by many as the legendary seventh generation, few saw a path to realize such hope. The group soon recognized that opening a safe space for endangered teens was not going to be enough. To build resilience against drugs, abuse, and bullying, they needed to stand actively and publicly for values stronger than just hanging on. Not to confront bullies, but to nourish and protect each other. And then, in keeping with the prophecy they had received, connect with others. They joined the Keystone XL protests that were going on nearby at Cheyenne River. Further, honoring received tradition, they sought to stay together physically, living in a conscious, sacred way, present, listening. They included and helped inspire the endangered kids. In November 2015, the Obama administration denied Keystone's right to cross the border. But soon after that, the Dakota Access Pipeline was proposed to cross the Missouri at Standing Rock, not far upstream. This shift led the group to join a meeting of more seasoned activists not far from where the proposed pipeline would cross the river. They offered to begin a small prayer camp near the tiny settlement of Cannonball to oppose Dakota access. Their proposal carried, and not long after, the prayer camp began. Each morning, the youths performed a water ceremony, honored ancestors, and fed a sacred fire. Slowly, the message spread, carried first by runners, as in former times, to the different Sioux bands, then to the Corps of Engineers in Omaha, which could block the pipeline's river crossing. After Omaha, where they got a welcome, runners went to Washington. Eventually, 10,000 people in the dead of winter, including Patty Willis, our beloved minister, gathered at the camp. These included veterans of units that had once taken part in the original genocide against the Sioux, and, this struck me especially, a team of medics sent by Black Lives Matter from Chicago. People with different backgrounds, skills, and histories joined each other in this remote, isolated place. In 2016, responding to widespread emerging public pressure, the Obama administration blocked Dakota access just before Trump came to power and reversed that late decision. Still, the public shift continues, perhaps more visibly. A Native American, an activist from New Mexico who helped at Standing Rock, now stands as nominee for Secretary of the Interior. Her scope would include the Bureau of Indian Affairs, as well as threatened public lands. We recognize a major change in understanding. But don't forget, it started with a tiny group of kids who sensed clearly that they needed to be present for each other. From this angle, for a moment, we can flash back to the ICU. Was it really such a foreign place? The people working there, also specific individuals here who came forward with deep care and understanding. Those people set powerful examples. Different as they were, one from another, each embodied a particular intent to be present, to come forward, to make a difference where they stood. As the Buddha taught, that presence is exactly where our focus needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I have just a short reflection to share with you this morning, and it seems so wonderful that it's snowing outside, because this story begins on a very, very hot day when I was 17 years old. It must have been well over 100 degrees outside that day. And as I lay on my bed waiting for the afternoon to pass, I could feel the heat pulsing underneath the air conditioner. A series of long and loud honks interrupted the nothingness of my afternoon. And so I ventured over to my window to investigate and saw that my friend Erica was waving maniacally at me to come down from the driver's seat of her mom's minivan. The blazing heat engulfed me as I opened the door, my lungs instantly scorched by the hot, dry air as I stepped out into the afternoon. And I hurried over to the side of her car, and as the door swung open, I was greeted by a new blast of conditioned air. And inside, my friend Erica was wrapped in her best winter clothes, scarf and hat and mittens and a long winter coat. "Jump in," she said. "There's a coat in the back for you." And as I slid into the passenger seat and I donned that thick jacket over my strappy tank top and shorts, I wondered what the adventure would be this afternoon. And we just drove. We just drove that afternoon, not anywhere in particular, just around and around with the air conditioner on full blast and the radio playing. An ice cream truck making its round through our neighborhood caught our attention, and we picked up a few Choco Tacos, which now I think would probably taste pretty terrible, but back then were a delightful and welcome diversion. Erica and I didn't talk much that afternoon, mostly just casual observations and small jokes here and there. And after a while, she dropped me back home. And as I sauntered back indoors, it felt like enough. In fact, it felt like more than enough. Erica showed up with casual regularity that summer. I never knew when she might show up or what we might do. But again and again that summer, she'd pull up in her mom's beat up minivan and off we'd go. In that way, Erica made that first summer, those first weeks really after the passing of my mom to brain cancer, somehow bearable. She made it okay to be sad that summer. She made it okay not with words, but with her ability to show up and just be present. Just be kind and to not ask for anything in return. And when I think back on this kindness, now 25 years in the past, I'm humbled. Her friendship was such a gift to me. And even though we have long since lost contact, I hope that she is well. And I hope she knows somehow that she changed my life for the better. Perhaps someday the stars will align and we will greet each other again as friends. That summer and the summers to come, grief was a primary teacher for me. And at 17, the kindnesses that arrived in the midst of that grief changed me for the better. They helped me to make sense of life following grief. And in time, those kindnesses invited me to return to a place of wholeness. I have chosen to remain a student of kindness as a result of these early experiences. And it continues to shape my living, even when I fall far short of my intentions, because of course I do. It seems that kindness is forever welcoming and gently reminding me that the space from which to live with meaning is a place of deep presence. For truly, it is the source of deep kindness is only available in this present moment. For it is only when we are present that we can possibly notice and respond to self and other with compassion. A stance that holds firm to this present moment is a stance that seeks to see things as they really are, to accept and to pass no judgment. It seeks to embrace all of the feelings and all of the sensations as the information rather than as a source of suffering. And such a stance encourages that fleeting soul self to emerge from its protected places. Like that wild deer that is spoken of in Mary Oliver's poem, the soul self is fragile and timid at times. But once it comes onto the plane of being, its presence is like no other, filling the entirety of that space with a beautiful and calm presence. Thus, when we speak of cultivating the ground of being and a sense of compassion, that is what we are seeking to invite forward into our living in this moment and in the moments that go beyond our time of worship, such as it is. There's nothing magical about emergence, and there's nothing magical about presence, even as it can feel mysterious to us at times. Presence is not something that can be manipulated, and the emergence of the soul cannot be forced. The soul self will only emerge when it feels invited and it feels safe. It's not magical, but it can seem so to the untrained mind, to the untrained observer who misunderstands that the emergence of the human soul self is a highly possible, entirely probable, and even predictable occurrence that arises from the practice of arriving just to this moment and being here in the right now. And kindness is the key to entering into that. Kindness towards self, towards other, and ultimately toward the whole of the world. And in this way, kindness is almost salvific in that it acts as a balm, calming, soothing, and making space for presence to naturally arise in us, to be shared with one another, and to light the whole of the world. So as we get ready to go forth from this time and this place together, may you remember that the cultivation of kindness is simply that, cultivation, whereby you and me and those that we touch in our lives may be enriched by the gift of our presence. May you be well, and amen.
Our closing hymn is Be Ye Lamps Unto Yourselves, 184. I will sing it, and the lyrics will be in the chat box if you want to sing along. Everyone but myself will be muted.
Let us now extinguish our communal chalice. You are invited to unmute yourselves, stand as you are able or willing, and say our chalice lighting words together.
I'm sorry.
What? Okay. We have put the words in the chat box if you'd like to follow along.
I'm just gonna type something.
We extinguish this chalice, but
We
not the
extinguish
warmth
it.
of community, the light of truth,
Or the
nor the energy of action. We hold each other in our hearts until we meet again.
May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back, and the sunlight warm upon your face, and the rains fall soft upon your field. Until we meet again, my friend, until we meet again, may love hold you in the palm of her hand, her hand. May the road rise up to meet you, and the wind be always at your back, and the sunlight warm upon your face, and the rains fall soft upon your field, till we meet again, till we meet again. May love hold you in her hand.
Our time of worship is coming to a close, but our work of service to the world just begins. May you truly be a lamp unto yourselves and unto the whole of the earth. Take good care of one another until we meet again. May you go forth in peace and be a blessing to the world. Amen. We'll take a short break and then we'll come back for social hour.